Chapter 2. In You, I See Myself. The perilous voyage continues. 3 months after Timmers, March 27th, 2026. Tim gazed out the window of the starship as it soared through space faster than light could hold an image, his mind void of thoughts. The streaks of light, only brief flashes of stars and worlds infinitely passing by. He stood alone in his living quarters, missing the company of his friends and family. It had been months since anyone had spoken to him, even the captain. The doctor almost seemed to be frightened at the sight of him. Tim felt utter guilt for his past life, but only wanted to make it up to the people he loved. He was unsure if that would even be possible. Tim stepped out of his room and began traversing down the hallway to the main common area. He watched as Karen and the kids conversed, a group of elves singing Timmers carols together, and Mr. Unicorn and Mr. Monkey eating some food beside them. He wanted to join them so badly, however, he ultimately lost the courage to do so. He turned back around to return to his room, only to stumble into Tyrone and Chicago Guy. "Hey, Tim, we were just, getting some food," said Chicago Guy as they quickly passed by to unite with everyone else. Tim sighed and returned back to his quarters in defeat. "Hey, Mom?" Harold asked his mother, who stared into the vast streaks of light like shooting stars. "What's up, honey?" she asked, turning to face him. "I'm bored." "Yeah, me too," said Ethan, missing his old life back on Earth. "I know, boys. I know. There isn't much I can do right now." "When's Dr. Coswater going to set up Fortnite in our room?" Ethan whined. "He is very busy right now. He will get to it soon, okay?" "All right," Ethan said in defeat, now setting the record for the longest time he has gone without playing video games. Ethan opened his phone, checking to see if Aidan or Jacob had messaged him. "I hope they're okay," Ethan said sorrowfully, unsure if they were still alive. "All we can do is hope, Ethan. Service doesn't work this far out in space." "I'm sure they're wondering the same thing," Karen replied, attempting to lighten the mood, although knowing deep down that there wasn't much hope for Earth anymore. Kavish stood in the darkness of the control room, glaring down at the vibrant map of the Timothy galaxy, Gym forces overwhelming various sectors. He let out a heavy sigh, zooming into different systems to examine the overwhelming amounts of Gym takeover. Mayor Timbus ambled into the room, his last shimmers of hope drained away. "It's not looking good, huh?" said the mayor with a soft tone. "The Gyms were far more prepared than we anticipated. Their forces are simply 2 to 1. God damn it, we should have taken these pests out before it was too late." "We've all underestimated them, it seems," said Timbus, as the other mayors and the supernaturals let themselves in. The 9 of them stood around the round table, staring down at the holomap in disbelief. "I know this seems futile, but many of our strongest allies are currently en route to K2HB as well. We must put that into consideration," said Kavish. "You're right, maybe this is what we need, giving the Gyms the blinding confidence that they will win this war. Then we hit them with our secret weapon," said Doug, as everyone nodded along. "You 3 keep monitoring the map and sending forces out to the systems in need. We still need to draw back heavy fire from overpowering Tim worlds," said Kavish. "In the meantime, I must speak with the council." Kavish walked out of the control room with a purpose unknown to the team, as the rest of them continued to glare at the chaos below. The orgasmic cow, Ricky Rat, and Kraukes sat on their beds, staring at the ceiling in sheer boredom. "Ah, nuts! What now?" The orgasmic cow whined, feeling as if his body was sinking into the deep mattress. "I dunno. We've played all of our favorite games 100 times over at this point," said Ricky Rat, as he continued tinkering with a wrench on his tool belt. "What's others up to?" Kraukes asked. "I think they went to get food or something," said the orgasmic cow, his voice now muffled, sinking further and further into the mattress. Suddenly the bed frame snapped, sending him to the floor with a hard thud. "Ah, pickles! There goes my 8th one," said the orgasmic cow, in defeat. Suddenly, Mr. Unicorn and Mr. Monkey stepped into the living quarters with food stains all over their fur. "That was so yummy," said Mr. Unicorn, as he rubbed his round-table tummy with delight. Mr. Monkey agreed with various energetic hand gestures. "Hey, guys, let's go on an adventure," declared Ricky, standing up from his bed for the first time in hours. "But where would we go?" the orgasmic cow asked, scratching his udders with perplexion. "Let's go explore the ship. It's massive. I'm sure there's lots of cool places we haven't found yet," Ricky proposed, as sudden excitement filled the room. The Misfits marched out of their quarters with determination, wondering where the cow might take them in the vast interior. "Hey, follow me!" the orgasmic cow shouted, running down a thin corridor. The Misfits stayed closely behind as various giggles erupted from their ears. Suddenly, red lights flashed across the vast corridor around the Misfits. Then, a broadcast began. "Everyone, report to the control room. This is not a drill. I repeat, this is not a drill," said Mayor Timbus over the intercom. "Oh, man, we were just about to go play," said Mr. Unicorn in defeat, as they sadly made their way to the front of the ship. The Misfits headed over to front of the Timcraft, only to be swallowed by a large crowd of crewmates, murmuring to each other. "Everyone, please settle down," Doug commanded the group. Everyone's voices slowly dissipated as Doug stared ahead with a solemn expression. "As you all know, the galaxy is full of various gym checkpoints and bases. It has come to my attention that we must pass by a medium-grade gym station, or we will risk losing the fastest route to our destination." Sudden panic filled the room as the lost crowd worried for their safety. "Everyone, please," Bradley ordered. "We have prepared for this and will be applying a cloaking device to the ship's exterior. The moment we get in range of the system, we will be shutting off all warping technology and simply pass by, without them knowing we were there. There is nothing to worry about." "What if the device malfunctions?" Philum Elf asked. "Then we will warp away." "That's simple," Colton chimed in, attempting to ease the tension. "Surely they would have technology to track us, right?" Uncle Louis asked. "Let's not ask what-ifs for now. Just continue your original activities, and we will go from there," said Doug, as the crowd began to disperse. The orgasmic cow glanced around, eager to continue their game of hide-and-seek. As the Misfits took off into the bustling group of crew members, Doug watched from afar. "I hope he lives up to the doctor's expectations," Doug said grimly, remembering what he had said months ago when they first boarded this craft. "I'm not sure. He's strong, but easily outsmarted and distracted," said Travis, as the 5 supernaturals stared ahead. "Only time will tell," Ken said with uncertainty, as the Misfits ran out of view. Doug turned around and sat near the controls of the ship. Shortly after, Dr. Kaswata ambled into the room. "Doctor, are we ready to deactivate the warp drive?" Bradley asked. "Yes, any moment now. Wait for my command." The supernaturals nodded and hustled to the controls. 3, 2, 1, Kavish ordered, as Bradley flipped a large lever on the panel. The ship shook violently for a brief moment, rocking the group forward slightly. The Timcraft came to an abrupt halt, thrown into the random vastness of space once more. "All right, now activate the cloak technology," said Kavish. Suddenly, the ship's interior lights gradually shifted to a dark purple hue, the large shuttle now blending into the vacuum of space. "Did it work?" Colton asked. "Yes. Now we must push ahead. The gym station is near," said the doctor, as Doug started up the engines once more. The ship took off at immense speeds, gradually nearing a distant object hidden by the vast stars around them. "Is that it?" Travis squinted. "Should be. Let's just hope that this system isn't as active," said Kavish, as the crew watched carefully. The Misfits continued playing their game in the vast halls of the Timcraft, giggling and chasing one another. Just as the orgasmic cow was about to tag Mr. Monkey, he stopped cold, glaring out the window with awe. "What is it, Mr. Monkey?" the orgasmic cow asked, as Craucus and Mr. Unicorn stared too. Ricky and the orgasmic cow hurried to the spacious window. A colossal structure could be seen in the distance. Fleets of starships soared by, some even docking from the sides. "Whoa!" said Ricky, never seeing anything that large before. "That must be the space station Dr. Koswata Wasa talking about," said Crocus, as his eyes widened with curiosity. The structure continued to grow in size as they neared it, more ships soaring into view. Meanwhile, the supernaturals remained vigilant, avoiding the paths of gymcrafts flying by in hopes of not being seen. "We're about to pass it. Get ready," said Kavish, as the 5 of them nodded with determination. Just as they approached the docking bay, however, a small ship took off from the runway toward them. It suddenly crashed into the side of the invisible Timcraft, followed by a massive explosion that disengaged the cloaking device. A loud siren blared across the interior of the ship, with bright red lights casting down on the entire crew. Everyone began to panic, running and shouting with fright. "Full speed ahead! Now!" Kavish shouted in utter shock, as Doug, Ken, Travis, Colton and Bradley rushed to the controls. Suddenly, 3 gym ships departed from the docking bay, and began following closely behind. "Attention, life forms! Surrender now, or perish!" A deep, eerie voice rang out from the intercoms. "Shit! We need to warp now," said Ken, eager to ignore orders and follow his gut. "It takes about 10 seconds to activate the warp drive. We need to shake them first. They'll have a clear shot on us otherwise," Kavish responded. "I'm doing it anyway," said Ken, as he quickly pressed a bright orange button beside him. The ship thrusted backward, the engines preparing to propel through space. The Jims opened fire, obliterating the left engine and scraping the sides of the ship. The Timcraft shook violently, the crew members frantically shouting from outside. "God damn it, Ken!" Kavish yelled. As the Jims continued to fire upon them, the three mayors suddenly rushed in a hurry. "What the fuck is going on?" Timbers asked, just before the ship blasted ahead. Everyone tumbled backward, the ear-piercing alarm still blaring. Warp drive damaged, all engines disengaging for repair. An AI assistant voiced through the intercom as the ship came to a halt once more. The Timcraft stopped right in front of a large planet, the ship coasting toward it uncontrollably. "Ship, activate thrusters now," Kavish commanded. However, it did not respond. Kavish ran out of the room in a panic. He rushed to the common area as the crew members huddled together in fear. "Everyone, get somewhere safe. We have no other choice but to make an emergency landing," Kavish shouted, the crew members dispersing to nearby seats and objects to hold onto. The ship continued to be pulled into the planet's atmosphere, increasing in speed by the second. A streak of fire engulfed the craft as it plummeted downward under the clouds. "Brace for impact!" Kavish cried as the shuttle swooped above a dense alien forest, nearing closer and closer. The craft began slamming into the tall trees, slightly softening their descent. With all of the supernatural's might, they lifted upward on the steering controls, attempting to decrease the damage. However, the shuttle could no longer withstand the fall. It slammed downward onto the surface, skidding the craft hundreds of feet across, eventually coming to a hard and abrupt stop. The Misfits opened their eyes slowly, the 5 of them now scattered across the long hallway. The window beside them was now cracked, covered by dense plant life on the other side. The orgasmic cow rubbed his eyes, wondering how long he'd been out. "Are you guys okay?" he asked, glancing at his friends. "Yeah, I think so," said Ricky Rat, popping his severed arm back into place. Suddenly, Karen, Ethan, and Harold rushed over to them in a hurry. "There you are. We've been looking for you guys," said Karen with relief. "Oh, sorry. We were playing tag," the orgasmic cow said with a slight chuckle. "Come on, let's regroup in the common area. The doctor's about to make an announcement," Ethan said, as the 3 of them started speedily walking away. The Misfits followed with curiosity, just noticing that they were no longer in space anymore. Once everyone made it into the room, Dr. Kaswata let out a heavy sigh. "As you all know, this mission did not go as planned." "Yeah, no shit," Chicago Guy interrupted. "Everyone, please listen. I understand this may be stressful." "Are we all gonna die?" someone blurted out in a panic, followed by various murmurs and ruckus amongst the group. "Everyone, please!" Tim called out in the room as everyone stopped to stare at him. Karen glanced in his direction, slight fear in her eyes. "Listen to what the doctor has to say." Kavish stared at Tim, unsure to thank him. "As I was saying, we have a team that will help repair the exterior and get it up and running again. We will also do a surface scan of the environment to ensure that we are safe. I do not recognize where we are, so that means that the Jims probably don't either," said Kavish. "So, how long until we're back in space?" Philomelf asked. "I don't know. Could be weeks." Panic induced in the room once more. "Oh, guys," said the orgasmic cow, glancing around at the chaos. "It's okay. We still have time. No need to worry at this very moment. The interior is still safe. There is only damage to the thrusters and warp drive on the outside," Kavish said, in hopes of calming the crowd. "And Misfits?" "Yeah?" the orgasmic cow asked. "Stay here with the others. We can't afford y'all getting lost again," Kavish ordered. "Oh yeah, for sure," said the orgasmic cow with a solemn expression, as the Misfits nodded in unison. Kavish walked off with the mayors and the supernaturals as the group of lost crew members began to talk amongst themselves. "Wow," said Crocus, in utter awe, staring out the large window. I've never seen anything like that before, said Ricky Rat. Mr. Monkey climbed up the orgasmic cow's back to get a better view, his eyes suddenly widening in shock. We gotta go check that out, said the orgasmic cow, his curiosity piqued. But what about Dr. Costwater's orders? Mr. Unicorn asked. He won't even know we're gone. It'll be fine, said the orgasmic cow. I bet there's some awesome hiding spots out there, Ricky chimed in. What's so waiting for? Let's go, sir, Crocus shouted as they left the busy room. The Misfits slithered around the groupings of crew members, collectively confused as to where they were heading. The 5 of them excitedly traversed towards the exit in the back of the aircraft, the orgasmic cow leaving a milky trail behind him. Here it is, Mr. Unicorn shouted as a large metal door could be seen in the distance. Wait, how are we going to open it? Crocus asked. Maybe ask nicely, the orgasmic cow replied. The 5 of them stopped at the large orange gate, pondering amongst themselves. Can you open, please? The orgasmic cow asked nicely. Suddenly the room began to rumble as the sliding doors split apart with a mechanical hiss. A ramp lowered from the exit doors and placed itself on the unknown surface. A warm breeze of air etched their faces as the alienated trees swept back and forth gently. Whoa, said Ricky Rat, taking in the warm and humid air. It's breathable, guys. Maybe we can find some friends here, said the orgasmic cow with excitement. The Misfits continued down the long ramp until they were fully immersed in the dense jungle. Another mechanical noise sounded behind them as the ramp raced back into the Timcraft and the door closed shut. Well, guess we should keep going, said Mr. Unicorn, as Mr. Monkey began sprinting ahead with glee. This place must be so nostalgic to him, Ricky said with a slight chuckle as Mr. Monkey carried on with excitement. Yeah, we did find him in a jungle like this back home, said the orgasmic cow, suddenly feeling sorrowful. Hey, maybe this could be a new home for us, Ricky said in hopes of cheering him up. Yeah, maybe. We should probably catch up with Mr. Monkey, guys, said Mr. Unicorn, as faint, happy screeches could be heard in the distance. Yeah, probably, said Ricky as the remaining Misfits chased after him. After some time of exploring the vast jungle, they began to wonder if there was any like-minded life here at all. The trees swayed back and forth, colourful and vibrant vegetation pulsating, creating low hums that travelled through the environment. The ambience around them, it was silent. It's been like an hour. You think we should head back? Ricky Rat asked the orgasmic cow, who seemed to be distracted by a glowing orange and blue plant. Huh? He turned to Ricky, his eyes blinking sideways. Do you think we should turn back? I guess so. I'm kind of bored. The Misfits turned behind them, staring into the dense grouping of trees. As they continued on, however, they began to lose sense of where back was. Wait, did we come from over here? The orgasmic cow muttered to himself, circling around a tree continuously. Uh-oh, said Crocus, starting to feel uneasy. I'm sure we're not that far, right? Mr. Unicorn asked with a lack of confidence. Oh, nuts, said the orgasmic cow in defeat, realizing that the sun was starting to set. We gotta get moving, come on, said Ricky Rat, as the 5 of them blindly chose a direction and continued ahead. However, just as they resumed their voyage, something snapped from behind them. The Misfits whipped around in unison, only to see nothing but trees and bioluminescent vegetation around them. They continued to stare, certain they all heard a noise. And then, a faint rustling noise came from a nearby bush. I think something's watching us, guys, the orgasmic cow said nervously. The 5 of them huddled together, the sun starting to dip below the horizon. A large figure abruptly dashed from the tree line, immediately going back into hiding. The sounds grew louder and louder. Who's there? Ricky asked with fright, the Misfits backing away from the noise. However, as they continued stepping away, everyone bumped into something from behind. They quickly jolted around, only to see a large gorilla staring down at them with a confused expression. Ow! The Misfits all shouted in unison, lunging backward. The gorilla yelped back in fear, running off to hide in a bush. Was that a gorilla? Ricky Rat asked the group, the 5 of them now realizing that it seemed to be more scared of them. Wait, that doesn't make any sense for a gorilla to be here, right? Mr. Unicorn asked confusedly. The orgasmic cow took a step forward. Hey, it's okay. We're not here to hurt you, said the orgasmic cow, slowly nearing the bush. The gorilla slowly raised its head from the vegetation, glaring into the orgasmic cow's eyes. It stepped out of the bush slowly and took a single step toward the Misfits. But then it stopped cold, standing on its hind legs and staring ahead. The orgasmic cow stared back, feeling a sudden and odd connection. The two of them walked closer, their eyes now locked onto one another. The orgasmic cow scratched his head with confusion, only for the gorilla to mimic him perfectly. "What the?" the orgasmic cow asked quietly to himself, baffled. They continued staring as the sun went down, feeling as if they watched one another for days upon end. A time-lapse ensued as the Misfits confusedly walked around the two still creatures, day and night dovetailing the sky. The Misfits occasionally walked off in sheer boredom once they realized their words couldn't get to them. After many days of the two creatures standing still in the mysterious jungle, the orgasmic cow suddenly decided to ask it a question. "Who are you?" he asked. The gorilla's trance suddenly ended, and he spoke. "I'm Marco the gorilla," he said with his deep, unsteady voice. The Misfits rushed over to the two of them, realizing that they were finally moving again. "What happened?" Crocus asked. "I don't know," said the orgasmic cow, his mind void of thoughts. "What's your names?" Marco asked. The other Misfits, startled that he could speak. This is Ricky Rat, Crocus, Mr. Unicorn, the shape of a round table, Mr. Monkey, and finally me, the orgasmic cow," the orgasmic cow said enthusiastically, pointing at his friends beside him. "Oh, okay," Marco replied. The large, muscular gorilla suddenly pulled out a banana out of nowhere, took a bite with the peel still on, and proceeded to scratch his bare red ass. The Misfits all looked at one another, wondering where this gorilla came from. "You guys want to come see my treehouse?" Marco asked, cutting off their inner thoughts. "Oh, sure," Ricky Rat agreed. "Woohoo!" Marco shouted with glee, uprooting a tree from the ground and throwing it out of orbit in sheer excitement. "It's this way. Come on," said Marco, as the Misfits followed closely behind. The six of them continued through the dense jungle, the low hums of the vegetation slowly dissipating. The further they traveled, the less vibrant the plants became, as if they were fusing into something else. Eventually, the Misfits halted at a border of some sorts, an array of bright green grass stretching out ahead of them from both sides. Cocoa beans could now be seen on the trees, the landscape ahead almost mirroring that of Earth's. "Whoa, this looks just like home," said the orgasmic cow, as they crossed into the abrupt biome. "Home?" Marco asked, with a raised brow. The orgasmic cow pointed up into the sky as the rest of them stared above, somewhere far, far away. "This place makes me miss it. How'd you guys get up there?" Marco asked, picking his nose. "From space," said Crocus. "Space?" Marco asked, the Misfits now realizing that this place was all he knew. "I've never been out that far, in the weird-looking trees. Roy said it would be good to see what else is out there. And then I found you guys," said Marco. "Wait, there's more of you?" Ricky Rat asked. "Oh yeah, there's lots of us. Come on," said Marco, starting to hustle ahead. The Misfits jogged after him into the odd and familiar jungle, wondering what might lay ahead. The six of them continued for a moment until they were faced with a large treehouse connected to the top of two trees, nestled in between. Below were various tents, huts, and a large structure on the left of the trees. "Whoa!" the Misfits said in unison as Marco charged ahead. Various chimps, parrots, cheetahs, snakes, and a few hippos could be seen traversing the town, all with purpose. "Look at all those friends!" the orgasmic cow said excitedly, following Marco to the foot of the treehouse. Suddenly a tiger hopped down from the home and stood on its hind legs. "Hey, Marco." "Whoa, who are they?" the tiger asked. "Hey, Mo, look who I found out in the forest," Marco said with excitement. "Hello!" The orgasmic cow waved energetically, the other Misfits waving beside him. "Whoa," said Mo in awe, the first time he had ever seen creatures like this before. "They said they came from up there," said Marco, pointing at the blue sky. "Up there? You mean like those white dots in the sky at night?" Mo asked. "Yeah, we call it space," said Mr. Unicorn. the tiger staring up in shock. "I gotta go tell the commander. This is great news," said Mo as he hurried to a large tent ahead. "You guys want to see my house?" Marco asked. "Yeah, let's go," said the orgasmic cow, Mr. Monkey already climbing up the ladder. Marco leapt to the top in one fluid action, shaking the ground beside them. The Misfits all climbed to the top, glancing around at the spacious interior. Around them were various banana peels, a shit-stained carpet, 2 beds in the corner, and a few windows. "Whoa, this place is so nice," said Crocus, admiring a yellow stain on the wall. "Did you build this all by yourself?" Ricky asked, astonished at the professional craftsmanship. "I think so," said Marco, taking a bite out of his bedsheets. "You guys want some bananas?" Marco asked. "Yeah!" the orgasmic cow shouted with glee as Mr. Monkey suddenly swiped the banana from his hand. "You like bananas too, huh?" Marco asked. Mr. Monkey shoved the fruit down his throat and nodded with his arms flailing in the air. Mr. Unicorn stared out the window at the town below, wondering how all of this could be possible. "This place is so cool," he said, missing their home more and more. "What if we could live here, like after the war or something?" the orgasmic cow asked. "That sounds like fun." "Wait, you said war?" Marco asked. "Yeah, there's a big war up there that we are in, and we were on our way to a distant place to train for it, but then we ended up crash landing here, and now we're stuck," Ricky explained. "Huh, that doesn't sound good," said Marco. "Well, maybe we can help you get back on your journey," Marco proposed. "Come on, let's go talk to Roy. Maybe he'll know what to do." Marco vaulted through one of the windows and slammed onto the ground below, heading towards one of the large tents. The Misfits hopped from the ladder and hurried with him. The 6 of them entered through a large hanging tarp and walked inside the tent, where they saw Mo speaking to a small muscular chicken with a coconut hard hat. "Oh, that's them!" Mo pointed toward the Misfits. Roy raised his thick, dark brow with curiosity. The small chicken hopped from his chair and waddled over to the Misfits, crossing his big, bulging wings. "So, you're the guys that Marco found in the mysterious woods, huh?" Roy asked with an exceptionally deep and rich voice, throwing the Misfits off guard. "Yeah," said the orgasmic cow with a slight chuckle. "Well, I'm Roy, commander of the Primitive Resistance. Say, what brings you all here?" After some explaining and backstory, Roy still seemed to be confused. "So, y'all come from the sky?" he asked. "Pretty much, yeah," said Ricky, taking a bite out of an orange peel he found on the ground. "Yeah, and they need our help to continue their journey," said Marco. "Well, I'm not sure if we can fix an alien aircraft, but if anyone knows how to fix something, it would be Mo," said Roy, patting him on the leg. "Let me see what I can do. I always like an engineering challenge," said Mo, getting his tool belt together. "I like this guy," Ricky whispered to Mr. Monkey. Just as they got ready to head back, they were interrupted by 3 chimps who stumbled into the tent. Each one had a different coloured bandana on. Apart from that, they were entirely identical. "Whoa, who are they?" asked the chimp in the middle with a yellow bandana. "These are the Misfits," said Marco. "We found them in the weird woods." "Cool," said the chimp with a blue bandana. "Who are you guys?" the orgasmic cow asked. "We're the triplet chimps," they said enthusiastically in unison, proceeding to hop in the air and clap their hands above their heads. "I'm Dave," said the one in yellow. "I'm Davy," said the one in blue. "And I'm David. Nice to meet you," said the one in green. "We heard that you guys need help?" Dave asked. "Yeah, our ship Isa damaged, and we need help fixing it," said Crocus. "We can help!" the 3 of them shouted. "I could always use some extra hands," said Mo. "But let's just see what we're dealing with first. Don't want you guys making their ship any worse." "You betcha," they all said, clapping above their heads once more. "You guys ready to go?" the orgasmic cow asked. "Let's go!" Marco shouted, as the large group of talking animals left the tent. However, just as they started jogging back into the dense trees, the Misfits stopped cold. In front of them stood the Supernaturals, furious expressions on their faces. "Are y'all fucking serious? We told you to stay put." "And what did you guys do?" Doug yelled. Marco growled at the 5 heroes, feeling hostile towards them. "It's okay, Marco. They're our friends," said Ricky. "Sorry, guys," said the orgasmic cow, kicking the dirt. "You guys could have gotten yourselves killed. We didn't know what was on this planet," said Ken, suddenly realizing there were talking animals everywhere. Wait, what is this place? Travis asked, looking around at the abrupt biome change. We found some friends here, the orgasmic cow shouted with glee. The supernaturals glanced at one another uneasily. This isn't right, Bradley whispered to Doug. Misfits, we're going back now. Dr. Coswata would like a word from you all, said Doug, attempting to avoid small talk with these odd creatures. Marco and Mo are coming with us. They can help fix the ship, the orgasmic cow declared, marching ahead. No, they stay here. We do not know their intentions. It's too dangerous to allow these guys to join us. Especially now, Colton chimed in. Hi, sirs, let me explain. We found these guys wandering deep in the jungle, and they told us that you guys are in desperate need of assistance. All we want to do is help, Mo explained. I appreciate that, but we can't afford bringing y'all back, said Doug. I'm not leaving until they're coming with, the orgasmic cow pouted, standing still with his ears crossed. Me too, said Ricky, standing beside Mo. We are not asking, said Doug, taking a step toward them. As the supernaturals neared closer, the tension rose. Guys, stop fighting, Marco cried as the two sides stood still like a Western showdown. Marco tapped the orgasmic cow's shoulder in order to calm him down, but something unexplainable followed. As the two creatures made contact, a shockwave rippled across the land, sending Marco and the orgasmic cow straight to the ground. They both saw an intense vision, streaks of light propelling through time and space. The 6 beams of light scattered across the Timberverse, traveling at unfathomable speeds. They saw other beings, creatures they have never seen before. And finally, one final beam of energy, a red flash in the cosmos streaking toward a ring planet for cooling. The orgasmic cow and Marco opened their eyes, the two of them laying next to one another. Everyone from the tents rushed over to see them on the ground, a group of animals peering around them. Are you guys okay? Ricky asked, worrisomely. Jesus, what was that? Travis murmured to Ken, the 5 of them examining the area around them. The 2 of them sat up in unison, attempting to regain their sense of reality. We need to find them, said the orgasmic cow blankly, Marco glancing at him. You saw that too? He asked. Yeah, those streaks of light. I saw where they went, the orgasmic cow said in awe. Wait, did you just say streaks of light? Doug asked in shock. Meanwhile, aboard the Timcraft, Tim sat on his bed, his head in his hands. He knew that he needed to speak to her again, but was too scared. She was scared. Was this for him or for her? Tim stood up, pacing around his room. He knew that he must say something, an apology for what he had done to all of those people. But why didn't he remember? I have to say something, Tim said to himself, heading towards the door of his quarters. He walked out into the hallway, heading to Karen and the boys' room. He arrived at her door, his palms sweaty, his heart pounding out of his chest. He gave it a light knock and waited a few moments, pacing back and forth. Eventually, he heard a slight creak and turned. Karen stared at him for a moment, only to close the door on his face. Karen, please, let me talk, he said from the other side. After moments of waiting, he began to turn away and head back to his room. However, just as he began trotting off, the door opened again. Tim turned once more and stared back at her. Karen walked back in her room, the door still open. Tim followed her inside and shut the door behind him. Kavish suddenly turned the corner, noticing Tim had entered the room. With sheer curiosity, he followed behind and stood beside the closed door, eager to find out more about the mysterious man in green. Karen, Tim started, only to be held back by his thoughts. Why didn't you say anything? Karen shouted. Do you know how long I waited to hear from you? For you to explain yourself? Karen, Tim started. I thought you'd never want to speak to me again. I felt that way for a long time. But I just don't know what to think right now, Karen said. What we saw on that screen at the gym HQ, I couldn't believe what I saw. But it happened. Tim, you killed those people. I remember hearing about you on the news many years ago. I just didn't know that it would be. Karen stopped herself, a tear shedding down her eyes. I just wanted a normal life after Gwendol. I'm sorry, Karen. I truly am. And I will continue to hate myself until the end of time for that. Do you really not remember? Or was it your guilt that buried it deep down in your mind? No, I don't. I know you have no right to trust me, but I was telling the truth when I woke up in my suit. I had lost everything, Tim said, looking down sorrowfully. I can't believe you would even think I could trust you. I don't even know who you are anymore, said Karen, her heart broken. I wish I could prove it to you, Tim said, his voice cracking from the tears. The two of them stared at one another for a moment, the silence weighing heavy in the room. Kavish stood from outside, utter shock and realization in his eyes. Why did you come here, Tim? What was the real reason? Karen asked. I miss you, Karen. I can't do this right now, she said, wiping her tears away. Where are you going? Tim asked. I just need time, Tim. I really need time to think about this. I will not make the same mistake twice, she said, heading for the door. Kavish scrambled away as he began to hear motion. Kavish watched from a corner of the hallway as Karen walked off in a hurry, still wiping away the tears. He then saw Tim walk the other way, back to his room in defeat. Kavish stared at him, the visions replaying in his head once more. The gunshots, the killings of his colleagues, the green-suited man pointing a firearm straight at his head. Was that truly him who did this? Kavish thought to himself. He pulled out a communications device and called the leader of the council. Timothus, Kavish began. Yes, doctor, a high-pitched voice sounded through the other side. I have news on Tim. What happened? Timothus asked. He had an argument of some sorts with that woman, stating that he didn't remember his past, that he awoke in his suit, that he lost everything. Do you believe him? Timothus asked skeptically. I'm not sure what to think, Kavish started. It makes me wonder that perhaps something else could have been at play. Like what? I'm not sure. I think it's time I ask around. Yes, and be sure to keep an eye on him. We cannot risk losing the mission. The sooner he gets here, the better. He must know, for that may be the only way we survive what's to come, said Timothus ominously. Yes, sir. For Timothy, Timothus replied back. Click. Timothus stared at the device for a moment in his hand and set it beside him on his desk. He glanced around his spacious office, his mind racing with thoughts larger than himself. Timothus sat down, setting his suit jacket behind his chair. It revealed a nameplate on his uniform underneath, entitled POV 56. The mysterious, humanoid alien pulled out a massive book from a desk drawer and placed it in front of him, blowing off the dust. He pondered for a moment, staring at the title, The Timothy Handbook. Timothus scrolled through multitudes of chapters full with information. He then stopped on a blank page and pulled out his ink and pen. He wrote "A Man in Green" at the top of the page. He then began writing away, as if the survival of the Timiverse counted on his knowledge.